Hello, my name is Justin Bright, and welcome to Kerbal Space Program version 1.8.1 in my next small step RP-1 career mode playthrough. And welcome back. It's been a little while. I have had just a crazy month, but I am going to be trying to put out a couple more videos to keep this moving, because we are not too far from what I've decided is going to be the end of the series, which is going to be, you know, a more sustainable space station around Mars, maybe a landed base. We'll determine exactly what that means, but we are getting pretty close because we've landed on the moon and now we are exploring Apollo architecture. And we have a couple things to do before we get to that. We have some research as we are waiting for my Edward Walters team to finish their training. So we've unlocked space station solar panels, which is really exciting because that includes level 3 technology for our solar panels, which I think is going to be dramatic. Like, if the jump from level 1 to level 2 is any indication, that is going to be an incredible boost to all of our procedural solar panels. And we've got a bunch of other just little level 3 solar panels that are static types, and that's fine. That's lovely. But yeah, this is the thing that I was really excited about and why I wanted to push on that. That is going to help us use solar panels in the inner planets a lot more, and not just rely on RTGs, as lovely as they are. We also picked up high data rate communications, which is going to get us comms tech level 7. And the level 8 tracking station research. Exciting. So, really exciting. Holy crap, I didn't even realize this, but this is actually going to get us X-band transmissions, which is, let's see how to put this. So if UHF and VHF are very wide bands that are good for omni antennas and that sort of thing, and then the upgrade to S-band is what gave us finally the first narrowband technology that was able to really go a long distance without being cranked up to unbelievable power. X-band is even tighter than that. It is a very tiny, narrow, focused beam relative to the other ones. Well, compared to the ones that we've unlocked so far anyways. There's even more tightly bound ones that are coming up later on. But this is going to increase our deep space network gain by 3 dB, and it's also going to give us that X-band, which is going to be incredibly potent for very long range, fast communication. So let's go take a look at that over here in the comms tech level 7. So you can see just a comparison right here. So at the same technology level, at the same power, S-band is 30.5 dBi and X-band is 42, so that's almost a 50% improvement. However, the beam width is 1.8 degrees, which means it's just this tiny, narrow little pinprick that is only going to expand to any appreciable distance at extreme range. So this is not something that you could make a satellite network using that would actually catch very much in geostationary orbit. Like, it wouldn't catch much of the sphere of influence of Earth, I don't think. It's very much specifically for pinpointing one of the deep space network stations and communicating to it very quickly with the very powerful architecture that you have there. So that is what we have unlocked. We don't have the cash to actually make that upgrade yet, but that's something that we will be able to do in the near future. All right, and here we have Inessa, Edward Walters, and Christine Adams that are ready to go on our Apollo 2 spacecraft. 3, 2, 1. We have ignition, and then the liftoff as it slowly climbs up off the pad. We are now launching the fully functional, hopefully fully operational, Paladin 3 spacecraft that is bringing up our Apollo 2 low Earth orbit mission. So this is a simple mission. We are going to be doing the orbital flight with at least 3 crew because I am out of freaking money, and I have also not been able to properly test the full Apollo architecture because we had all those problems last time. Like with the thing that didn't separate and all of that. But theoretically, this has been retooled and refixed and rejiggered, and hopefully this one should work. What I am doing now is I am getting us into a 150 kilometer parking orbit, and then we will be ascending up to our what do you call it, our final orbit, so we will be doing some small amount of maneuvering to do that, because I think that's kind of good practice to get in. I'm always complaining that, like, oh, well, I always end up just like punching in the final numbers and then going directly to the final orbit, even though that is not as efficient as just doing it right from the start. Grabbing a little screenshot there, but yeah, so this should hopefully be good. We have science on board, some small amount of science, and this is going to basically get us the money that we need to continue this part of the program. We are tipping pretty low in the atmosphere right now. I'm not sure what the deal is. Oh, I am pitching over as if this was a... Shoot. I'm pitching over as if this was a Titan 3. I'm gonna take control manually a little bit here. I'm just fighting with the autopilot at this point. I'm not sure how that's going to work, but I can't imagine it's going to be good. But we just need to get up a little bit so that we are not burning horizontally at 30 kilometers, because that will kill us dead. A little bit more. Get up a little bit more, please. Okay, we've got 20 seconds of burn time on the 8 H1 engines. It is fighting me a lot, but we are getting closer and closer to vacuum guidance. And we're overheating. See, this is what I'm talking about. This is what I was worried about. All right, so I'm gonna let it go. Let it burn everything out. Kick that off, fire up the J2 engine, and there we go. And I think, so long as what is this? So long as the service module doesn't melt, we should be in good shape. Set the guidance so that we know where we are. Okay, I think we're okay. I think that's fine. Wow. Okay, so that was another complete self-own on that one. Because, yeah, this thing lumbers off of the pad at a very low, like close to 1.10 thrust-to-weight ratio off the pad. So that's not something that should be pitching over at 0.6 degrees per second. All right, so this is pretty well unchanged from the previous version of the Apollo that I had launched, the one that I had done uncrewed so that we would not... or no, I don't think it was uncrewed. I think there was people on board, but I wasn't able to actually finish the mission because the thing was still attached. But yeah, it was definitely an issue of me attaching the service module to the wrong node on the interstage decoupler, but I have addressed that issue this time, so we should, in going forward into the future, not have that problem anymore. And we are coming just about to the end of our J2 upper stage, the S4B, and that kicks off. And we have good ignition of the Apollo service module's service propulsion engine. So, fantastic. We are on our way, and this is now the final Apollo module, looking absolutely fantastic. Makes me very excited that I'll be able to use this in the form of the Apollo Block 3 engine. Or, I'm sorry, the Apollo Block 3 capsule. Yeah, it's because it's just a really pretty spacecraft. I really enjoy it, and it's as iconic as can be, really. Like every board game I play that has spaceship themed stuff always has a little token that looks like this, like it has this shape to it. So very iconic. So I'm pretty happy to be able to keep using that. So yeah, we are just about in orbit. It's just going to be another 45 seconds that I will zip through because this thing is not a particularly fast engine. But yeah, as you've noticed, that our technology level is accelerating rapidly. We are learning stuff all the time and getting better and better technology, which is going to allow us to do all kinds of cool things. All right, so we are here. We are in orbit. Now we must make our trip up into a higher orbit. I believe that we just need to get to above 225 kilometers. So let's plan for a 250 kilometer circular orbit, shall we? And so no reason not to just fire up right here, and then we will go up to 250, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. And what I'm going to want to do now is we need the eccentricity to be very low. So we will just use the circularized tool at the next apogee, and that should be just fine. All right, so taking a look at the spacecraft itself, we have 14 days of food. We have not enough water, which I think is a matter of the water. Here we go. Running, dumping water, not dumping water. Should be fine. I mean, I'm definitely making more water than I'm throwing away, so that should be good. Then we have 11 days of liquid hydrogen, 11 days of liquid oxygen, which is not great, but once the batteries are full, that should reduce a little bit. Yeah, because the batteries are not full. So we are charging up the batteries, and it is 100% confirmed that the fuel cells will throttle to the amount that, yep, see, there you go, jumped up. They throttle to the amount of usage that they are required, right? So that seems obvious, but I was not sure if this was going to be the case. But because we're not using the entire capacity of our fuel cell, it throttles it back, and it more than doubles the length of life that it is going to have on orbit. So that should, in theory, be enough. So based on the usage that we have right now, we can kill our rotation as we finish up our burn. We have 24 days of liquid hydrogen and liquid oxygen. We have a shielded Apollo service module here that is filled with those cryogenic fuels, and so that should hopefully protect them a little bit from boiling off. We can go ahead and look at RF boil off, and you can see the rate that we are losing is 0 right now, because we have 420 nanowatts of heat penetration that has actually managed to get through the insulation, which means that we don't have a whole lot of heat change. There's not a whole lot of loss happening yet. So that amount will increase, especially as we get into the daytime, but it's not something that I'm terribly worried about. So electric charge is handled. Food is just what we have packed on board, and we are here for a 13-day mission. So we can put down a thing for 13 days, and that seems just fine. And I'm going to stay with the ship while we do this, because I don't think we have anything that's coming before then. Like, I don't have any, like, my next build is going to be a little bit after that, so I'm not too stressed about it. So that will prevent any issues with this not working properly. But we seem to have all of the other criteria, because we have circularized at about 252 kilometers above Earth's surface. Fabulous. So electric charge is handled. Oxygen is handled by converting our liquid oxygen into gaseous oxygen. And I actually had someone tell me about how that works on real airplanes, because this is something that we use on terrestrial aircraft as well. But you have just like a very well-sealed vessel on the aircraft where you store the liquid oxygen, and it's a pain in the butt to actually refuel, because you're dealing with cryogenic liquids, but then over time it just produces so much gaseous oxygen because it's so much denser. So it's just a fantastic storage method, so much so that they use it not just for spacecraft but also for terrestrial aircraft. So this is something that we would, I don't know if this came first. I don't know where it was used first, but using liquid oxygen is a very efficient way to store the stuff. And so we are able to convert it into gaseous oxygen, and it does not impact the amount of fuel that we have very much at all. So we have plenty of gaseous oxygen that is going to be perpetual. Food we have packed on because we have just a 13-day mission, so we should have a day's worth of food by the time we get down to the surface. Water, it says we have 9 days, or almost 10 days, but that is just the amount of storage that I think that we have. We are creating more from the fuel cell than we are actually drinking at any given time, and so in theory, that should never go down. Only other The only other consumable is our lithium hydroxide, which is in our CO2 scrubber, which is making sure that the atmosphere does not become toxic and murder our astronauts. And we have about 18 days of that because that is not a very heavy thing, so that should not be a problem. Other things to deal with while we are on orbit is we have a couple bits of science. So we have synoptic terrain photography. I'm not actually sure what the synoptic part of that means, but these were just high quality, small scale color photographs of land and ocean areas that was used for geologic, geographic, and oceanographic research. So I'm pretty sure that this is just the... I'm fairly certain this was the astronauts just like hanging up close to the window, snapping photos. But I could be wrong about that. But yeah, this was terrain photography that was being taken. And then similarly, there's also weather photography that we are doing. So we are taking pictures of cloud formations and other climatological events that are happening down on the surface. So yeah, we got two good bits of science as well as night image intensification, which sounds like it's just taking pictures and then cranking up the brightness. But yeah, we've got 3 different science experiments that we're able to do. So we have plenty of work for our astronauts to take care of while we are on orbit. So I don't see any reason to delay other than just to get us on and moving. All right, our astronauts are now entering their final couple of orbits. Here comes the last sunrise. Or probably not the last sunrise. They're probably going to land in the sun. And 5 minutes to go. 3, 2, 1. Mission complete. It's now time to head on home. So yeah, absolutely no issues there. We still have 1 day of food, just as I expected. We have very little boil off that is happening. Approximately 0. We are up to, or down to, I think we're up to 85 microwatts. I think a microwatt is bigger than a nanowatt. But in any case, it's still a completely negligible amount of heat. So we are keeping the cold inside and keeping the heat out. And so there's no interference there. And so there is no boil off, which is just fantastic. Like, that's actually making me start to wonder if I'm going to be able to send stuff out with liquid hydrogen, liquid oxygen before I have radiators, because that's kind of been the thing that I've been waiting for. But if I could send stuff out and actually do radiator, if I could actually send out spacecraft that have liquid hydrogen engines, that would be amazing for the ability of them to pack on a huge amount of delta V in the distant solar system. Because I've been kind of bound to storables, like using Aerozine and NTO, like on this engine here, because I didn't think I was going to be able to store those propellants for that long period of time. But if I'm like maintaining a near 0 boil off, that is making me wonder if I'm going to be able to sustain that over the course of a year or 2 as we go to interplanetary targets. Something very interesting to think about for sure. But for now, it is time to deorbit this spacecraft, so we are going to point ourselves retrograde and bring it on down. All right, so we have just touched down on, well, not touched down, thankfully, but we have just touched the atmosphere, so I am going to go ahead and separate the spacecraft. And then we will roll around and do all that stuff to get ourselves in the correct position, and hopefully the darn service module gets out of our way. So you can see we have switched to the new version of RO capsules that has the Apollo heat shield as a separate part. Thankfully, I remembered that and was able to go in and make some edits before the mission, because that could have been disastrous otherwise. And just like before, I won't walk you through the entire landing because it does take quite a while. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to turn descent mode on with a 0% differentiation there. And then it's wobbling a little bit, which I don't love. Turn this off. Then we got to turn on the actuation toggles. Turn off pitch so that we are not fighting with our pitch anymore. You can see that we are just kind of wobbling just gently. And that is how we're going to do. Like, I know that I was told in one of the comments or on Discord that this is not actually how the Apollo mission controlled their descent rate. They actually did roll around on their axis because they did have the RCS controls for that. So they didn't actually have like some kind of magical toggle that allowed the mass simulator inside here to slide around and make sure that it was descending at the exact proper rate, but that's fine. I'm going to do it because this is a lot easier. It's a lot less fiddly for me to control it in this way than it would otherwise be. So that's fine. We just have to very slowly increase the offset limit as we descend. All right, so we're hitting the thick part of the atmosphere here, really starting to shed some velocity. It seems our vertical speed is still increasing, accelerating downwards, which I feel like I've been able to skip and like zero out my vertical speed previously, but maybe not so much this time, but that's actually not that big of a deal. We are still shedding all of our velocity way high up in the atmosphere, so it's just working out great. So we are going to very slowly tweak this back down to 0 as our speed decreases to under 2 kilometers per second. There we go. And so now we are this vertical speed is increasing pretty dramatically, so that is excellent. I'm going to pop out a time warp, and we are going to pop off the forward heat shield. Turn off descent mode. There we go. And the drogue is activated, so we are all set. Drogues are open, and there go the main chutes. And then off come the drogues, and now we have main chutes that are bringing us down on a successful mission. And a beautiful sunset splashed down into the ocean as Inessa, Edward, and Christine successfully returned to Earth on their either incredibly buoyant heat shield or rock hard ocean, one way or the other. That's okay, sure. Anyways, yeah, coming down over a lovely sunset as we wrap up this mission, and we have now finally demonstrated the success of the Apollo architecture. Most importantly, the success of the Apollo architecture as used by me, who is not very good at this. All right, we got some lovely photography science back home. We have excitement for our astronauts as they extend their retirements out till 1984. A little bit of cash. Christine goes to level 1. Fabulous. And just 2 of the things were recovered, I think. I think the other one was transferred back down. So yeah, there we go. That's Apollo. That is what we are doing with the basic Apollo architectures. So we now also have Lunette Station, which is going to be my space station, first space station around the moon. I'm debating whether... No, I'm not. Hold on a second. So first of all, contract complete. We got 209,000 funds from that orbital flight, which is good because we were getting a little broke. And we only have about 300,000 funds. It's going to cost us about twice that to tool the full version, the lunar version of our Apollo launching spacecraft, which is not going to be a full-on Saturn V, but more of like a Saturn IV, I think, like a C4, something like that. I'm in there. I'm in the middle of that advancement tree, basically. But we don't have the money to do that right yet. However, we do have... If we look at our active space contract or our active contracts, we have the Lunar Space Station. So what this is going to need to do is we need to get this space station into lunar orbit with 4 crew, 1 docking port, and have a particular orbital set of parameters. Fine. But then afterwards, we need to bring 2 crew to the station, have 2 crew on board, and rendezvous. They need to stay on board for 30 days in a stable orbit, and then they need to go back home. And then the space station itself needs to stay in orbit. So that's going to be very challenging. However, I have a very good synergy that I can do with this. I'm pretty sure I can do this fly a crewed lunar orbital mission with 2 crew at the same time. So between 2 and 99 crew. So you can't do this mission with 100 crew. That's a darn shame. But we need to go to the moon, have some particular orbital parameters with a particular inclination, which is something that we should keep in mind for our space station as well, so that we can do this. Stay in that orbit for just 2 days and then come back home. So that's a nice brief thing, but there's no reason, I don't think, that I couldn't launch an Apollo spacecraft, rendezvous with our lunar space station, hang out for 30 days, and then knock out not only the crew lunar orbit, also the lunar space station, and also we have one of these like duration 30 days milestone contracts. And so that, all told, should get us the hundreds of thousands of funds that we need to actually make this happen. And so step 1 is to take this contract, boop, and between that and the contract that we just finished, we now have enough to tool our new Apollo spacecraft. And so here it is, a monstrosity so large it barely fits inside actually doesn't even quite fit inside the vehicle assembly building unless you use the hangar extender, what I am calling the Paladin 4 because of, the 4 engines. But yeah, this is based on the Saturn C4 concept that never actually got built, but was definitely designed and theorized. But yeah, it's got 4 F1 engines on the bottom, 4 J2s in the second stage, and then it's got the 1 J2 third stage here, and then everything else is as you know and love it. So yeah, that is what we are going to be sending to the moon, and this there's absolutely no reason I don't think that this can rendezvous and dock with Lunat Station and hang out for the 30 days. So we now just need to spend the ridiculous cost to tool a new diameter for us, a 10-meter tank, which is great because it was getting real tight trying to cram a bunch of F1 engines underneath an 8-meter tank. So this looks and feels a bit better to me. So we are going to tool, and that's going to cost us almost 700,000 funds. Woof, but this is kind of the rocket that we are going to be using for a while for these missions. So this is going to, this diameter is also going to carry us for the full-on Paladin 5 variant, which we're not ready for yet, but perhaps sometime soon. So yeah, this is it. This is the big one, and it's going to cost us 121,000 funds just to build, and you see that we are at 2,400 tons. So that means that there is no pad that has a number attached to it that can hold this monster. So it is unlimited pad or nothing. SLC-1 is the destination for this rocket. So there we go. That is what we are going to be launching. So our next step is going to be getting Lunat Station out and into a lunar orbit, and then we can have Apollo 3 come and rendezvous with it. But that, I think, is going to do it for us today. We did make a little bit of progress, but these videos are going to be getting just a little bit shorter. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, my last month has been crazy, and my outlook for the future is pretty similar, at least for the time being. So I will do what I can to get these out. I really want to get moving on towards the end that we have defined for this. Now that we've landed on the moon, we've kind of taken a little bit of the edge off, but there's still a lot for us to do. If you enjoyed this video, let me know down in the comments below. Please like and subscribe, and I will see you next time.